Good evening. Well, I am usually alone on a Sunday morning at 10 o'clock doing the Sunday property breakfast, but I'm delighted to be joined by Dean Robinson of Sandpiper Mortgages.
Hello.
This is a Q&A on anything about mortgages and property finance. They are questions that I've had in my mind for the last few weeks and months. They are questions that people raise with me that I don't know the answers to, and it's also a collection of questions that people have raised over the last few days since we announced the Q&A. We will try and take on any live questions, but if we do miss those, or indeed if you're not watching this live but watch it later and have any questions, just give me a call or give Dean a call. Our contact details are on this Facebook post, but you can search us on LinkedIn and Google. You'll find us anywhere and everywhere. So Dean, when I set the business up about a year ago, it was a bit of a no-brainer really that I called you. You used to work with my wife Joanne at Santander. Do you want to just give everybody a very brief history of your sort of like financial services history from Santander and Sandpiper now, really?
Yeah, so Joanne and I followed a very similar career path. We both worked at Barclays. I did for 10 years. I know Joanne similar. And then we both worked for Santander, coincidentally, actually. So I did 19 years working for Santander in various positions and left just over 2 years ago to set up a business with a colleague called Sandpiper Mortgages. And Joanne very kindly introduced you and I together.
Yes.
And here we are today working successfully in partnership for good clients of Hartley, Wintney and above.
And like most relationships, it's people referring people, and a referral from your wife is probably about as good as it's going to get. So thank you, Joanne. The intro fee will be paid at some stage in some way, shape or form. So on the breakfast and all the other stuff I do with, I talk about the buying and selling of property, but how's the market been really from the mortgage business point of view since we went into lockdown, March last year? What's happened in that time?
It's certainly been a unique period of time. For anybody who's tried to move or sell a property will know that it's been hectic to get to the 30th of June deadline. I would say it's probably the busiest time I've seen in the industry, especially really? Building up to the second deadline. We as a business did a fifth of all of last year's completions in 1 month.
Wow.
So, that shows you the level we're at, and it took a huge amount of organisation and patience and solicitors being on board to get everybody to that deadline.
Yeah.
But so it's been a different world. We've also seen through the pandemic lots of people wanting to extend their houses, build offices in the
I was going to
garden.
answer that because I see the ultimate change where people say I need to live somewhere different or I need to live in a different type of property. We've seen, the extras from London to living in a field and all that sort of stuff. But you've seen people who say, I'm still happy in the house I'm still happy where it is, but I'm going to adapt it. So so people remortgaged in order to be able to do that?
So people have, the conversation usually starts with clients saying, we love where we live, we love our house, we love living there, we're not so sure that we can work there too. And that's become a big part. So if there's equity in the property or they want to release some money, then there's an opportunity to build an office in the garage, convert that garage, even build extensions to put offices in. I've seen a lot of the purpose-built offices being done, and people using the value in their own house to create a more relaxed way that they can work and live and still separate. So that's been very, very popular.
And I imagine it's probably still going on because, again, I see it from the buying and selling point of view. A lot of people have tried to move or moved, and there's a lot of people who still are thinking of it, but they didn't make a knee-jerk change. They're seeing what's going to happen with their jobs and going back to work and all of that. Buy-to-let. David asked a question about buy-to-let. It used to be a big buzzword, probably, 4 or 5 years ago. Everybody was buy-to-let, building up a portfolio. Government legislation and tax has sort of slightly quashed it and killed it. Where's the buy-to-let mortgage market and the opportunities there?
So I would say in a normal world, a third of our business would be buy-to-let and 2/3 residential. That would be a typical split for us. Of late, that has probably increased, and it's increased for twofold. One is there's a huge demand for limited company buy-to-lets, and I'll happily go into as much detail as you'd like me to, but the ability to set up a limited company that is there for the sole purpose of letting property.
Okay.
And that has tax advantages. Okay, so because you become a director of that limited company and you're able to salary yourself and offset expenses as you would in any other limited company. And it's not utopia. We hear a lot from accountants that say you must do a limited company buy-to-let, do not do one on your own. It's not always that simple. The rates are more expensive.
Right.
They're a lot more stringent in terms of how they're agreed. But if you've got a broker who's an expert in limited company buy-to-lets, we can always advise whether that's the right way to go.
Would that mean that the taxation side of it would also need to be a key part?
Yeah, so we would. The first thing we would do is always advise contact with an accountant.
Okay.
Because the limited company has to be set up for the purpose of buying and renting out properties.
Okay.
So when you set up a limited company, you set it up with what's called a SIC code.
Okay.
SIC. It's not a youngster's colloquial language. It is actually the SIC code, and that SIC code has to be one of many. And I'll give you there's 5 or 6 that are there for letting out property.
Okay.
Once that's done, the accountant then will need to offset the costs involved, and you know, there's some really clever things going on with moving money from one limited company to another to use as a deposit.
Okay.
And it's just a way of utilising some company profits, directors' loans, and etc.
So this may be too complex for now, but I'm obviously self-employed, so I have a limited company that runs my business. So I wouldn't be buying it in that company name. I would be, if I thought of doing a buy-to-let through a limited company, I'd be setting up a separate limited company.
You would.
But would the limited company I currently have be a way of funding that other limited company?
So
and
this,
don't need to answer the absolute detail, because we could be here until midnight.
Yeah.
Probably.
So yes is the simple answer. It can, by way of either a director's loan or an inter-transfer between the two companies.
Okay.
So a lot of people use it as a way of putting some of their company profit into their and I am in danger of going into an accountant's view here, right? But yes, you can move some money through with either a director's loan, or some of the lenders allow inter-company deposits. So you would have, I don't think it would be called Keller Williams Properties, but it might be called AJ Consulting Property Limited.
Gary Keller might have a few words to say with me about adapting that name. But to be honest, I hadn't heard about this until we talked about it last week with a client of mine who was looking to do exactly that. So that's why it was a very live question for me. You also know that new homes was my background.
Yes.
And obviously, until I sort of finished that, when I set up the business, Help to Buy was, I used to know the percentages, but it seemed like everybody buying a new home was buying on the Help to Buy if it was under the £600,000.
Yes.
What's the current sort of state of play with Help to Buy and that market? And you do quite a lot of them, don't you?
I do, yes. Yeah.
And would you still are you still a fan? Do you have a mixed view on it?
Yeah, so I think that the key with Help to Buy is, well, first and foremost, it's for first-time buyers only now. So the market's shrunk. It used to be for anybody buying a new property.
Can it be somebody who has sold a property 2 or 3 years ago and come back into the market?
You will hear developers say the answer to that is yes. The answer is actually no.
So it's somebody who has never owned a property before?
Yes. Okay. Because they're checking land registry.
Yes.
Because that's where it comes from. Now, there are, I'm sure, people that have owned a property 20 years ago and it's managed to get through the net. But yes, it's first-time buyers.
It is proper first-time buyers.
It is.
Okay.
It's first-time buyers. It's sold by the developers as the utopia. Yeah. I don't agree with that.
Okay.
And it's sold by the press as the devil, and I don't agree with that either.
Okay.
So somewhere in between. So if a developer is suggesting that a Help to Buy is free money, it certainly is not free money.
Yeah.
It's a share of the equity. The 20% that you get from the Help to Buy equity is repayable of 20% of the value of the house in 5 years' time.
Yes.
It's not you've lent you 20,000 where you need 20,000 back. It's has the property price increased.
They will share the value.
They'll share the loss.
Yes.
They'll share the loss should that happen. Okay. It's very unlikely, but of course they'll share the loss. So it's not free money. There is a repayment.
Yeah.
The advantages and the reasons why I do like it, and the reason I am a fan, is first-time buyers with a 5% deposit suddenly become first-time buyers with a 25% deposit. What does that mean? They get a better rate.
Yeah. Okay.
Because they're getting the risk to the lender is considerably lower than at 95%. Therefore, the rate's more attractive.
Okay.
The Help to Buy equity loan is actually a second charge on that property.
Yes.
Not commonly known, but it is. So the lender knows that they're getting their money first, and the Help to Buy guys get their money second should all things go wrong.
So does a lender see a Help to Buy first? So if you had 2 identical first-time buyers,
yes,
would the lenders see the first-time buyer who's going to buy new as more of a risk to the guy who's just going to buy a second-hand house down the road, or do they view them very similarly?
Yes, they're very similar.
They don't distinguish.
Yes, and the equity loan, which is issued around here through Homes London, is a second charge on the mortgage, therefore their second bite at the cherry should anything go wrong. So as far as they're concerned, it's a 75% loan to value mortgage. So that's an advantage for sure. So you get first time buyers with 5% suddenly having 25%. Enables them to buy a beautiful, shiny, brand new house.
Yeah.
And I explain to all first time buyers, you buy a beautiful, shiny, brand new car, you pay a little bit more than if you buy a second-hand one. I don't think that's dissimilar with a brand new property.
No.
So you get the opportunity to live in it for the first time.
Yeah. And of course, you know what your outgoings are going to be, low energy.
Yes.
You're not going to suddenly have a scary thing that happens to the property, because it's going to be covered by the builder's insurance.
Definitely, and that's been really popular with a lot of the first time buyers. And typically, the first time buyers love the brand new house as I would. They're beautiful.
If you were a first time buyer, or maybe the parents of a first time buyer thinking, I reckon I like this idea of new, for all the various reasons. What would you suggest they do? Go to the new developer, go to Homes London, go to a broker? Who should they approach?
So I think the first thing to do is to discuss the mortgage with a broker who has a balanced view of Help to Buy, because I would want to establish whether the Help to Buy was the right thing, because it's not a one size fits all. If you have a 25% deposit, why would you borrow the 20%? It's not free money. Why would you want to give a share of your equity growth to somebody else? So I think you speak to a broker who's got a balanced view on it. You also have a 5/6 year plan, and I say that regularly to all my first time buyers, which is in 5 years' time, the aim is to repay that Help to Buy equity loan.
Yes.
The reason being is Homes London will charge 1.75 in year 6. And every year after that, the retail price index plus 1%.
Okay.
It's an expensive way to borrow.
So do you assess maybe the nature of the individual, but also perhaps the job they are doing, that gives you a better, more confident feeling that in 5 years' time they will be paying that back because of the nature of the work they do?
Yes, I either encourage savings to be happening during those 5 years, because they're probably getting an interest rate a lot lower than they anticipated on their mortgage, or I encourage a short term on the mortgage so that the capital they owe is down, so when we remortgage it in 5 years' time, there's enough equity to be repay the Help to Buy equity loan.
I'm with you.
So you catch up.
That's brilliant. I like that a lot, because you said at the beginning, the papers say it's the devil, and a developer thinks it's the best marketing tool they've had for the last few years. So I like that balanced approach, and that for individuals it doesn't necessarily work for everybody.
And just one other point on that, if I may, just to say that as a broker, a Help to Buy registered broker, I will do both the mortgage and the Help to Buy application for the clients.
Okay, and so if somebody comes to you, can they still end up almost with, I know you're not the biggest fan of a deal in principle in the sense that it doesn't give you a license to buy a house, but you can still get a deal in principle with a Help to Buy.
Absolutely,
absolutely. So the buyer knows roughly when they go to a new home that they've got this much to spend.
Absolutely.
So they're buying a 3-bed, they can't look at the 4 beds, but
absolutely. And then the Help to Buy equity loan being done by me is done simultaneously with the mortgage application. Yeah. Because effectively I'm doing 2 mortgage applications. Yes. Because they're exactly the same. One goes to Homes London, the other one goes to the lender who's ever the most competitive for the clients.
And I know from my own experience in new homes that the filling out of that Help to Buy application is torturous.
It is a skill.
If it goes wrong, it also starts the process all over again, which is slow and tedious to start with.
It is.
Everybody watching this, you and I, our families have all had to adapt to what's gone on in the pandemic and afterwards. How would you say the sort of mortgage lenders have adapted or are indeed continuing to adapt with everything that's going on or has gone on?
So if I can be really candid, I think it's been a little bit like the vaccine program. Some of us are double dosed with common sense, and some of the lenders are not. Okay. So we know which lenders we are kind of more open and comfortable to every scenario. So if there's over 100 mortgage lenders in the UK market, then obviously we have an opportunity to understand those lenders. I would say the response to the self-employed has been a challenge for most of the lenders, but they're starting to tackle that differently. The lenders are coming out of COVID generally now understanding that self-employed people who took a grant, an SEISS grant, doesn't mean that they're going to default on their mortgage. It was there to support them, much like furlough was for employed people. So it's definitely not a reason not to borrow and buy a property because you've had support.
Okay.
What it is important, I think, more than ever, and I guess I would say this, is that a broker who uses a plethora of lenders and understands their nuances is going to be even more important at the moment.
Well, and to be honest, I probably 30 odd years ago when I first got into the business, I always thought a mortgage broker was just somebody making money on what an individual could do, because in those days you tended to go to the building society and you'd have that savings book since you were 6 with your paper round money and your Christmas money, and they were the people you went to on bended knee to be able to buy a house. And even by the time I bought my first house, we went somewhere completely different. I've probably never known a time when a broker is more important, because how many lenders are there out there?
So roughly 100 UK. We work with just over 50, and that's not because it says we're not open market, because we describe ourselves as having a panel. It's the lenders that we choose to work with versus, as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah, okay.
And that's quite important to mention.
That's still 56. But 100 mortgage lenders, all with a variety of products.
And all with a very different USP.
Okay.
So some of them really like buy-to-lets, like the Mortgage Works, which is part of Nationwide. Others are really good with self-employed, or really good with limited companies. Some of them are even more bespoke with certain limited companies. Others are much more relaxed about government grants and SEISS grants than others. So it's a not necessarily something I'd advertise in the pub on a Friday evening, but somebody tells me about a case, my mind thinks of the lender, and then you start to explore that some more. That's
pretty good if you've got 56 in your head. You've got a sharper brain than I have on that. I was thinking as well that the other thing is, right now at 6:20 on a Tuesday evening, that lender might have that policy.
Yes.
But overnight, we see rates change. Well, you do, but I don't exactly follow rates every night. But we know the rate changing is an obvious thing. But presumably their criteria behind that changes all the time.
Yes, it does.
Which we wouldn't know.
Yes.
So somebody could tell me today that try so and so for a mortgage. 2 weeks later, I go to that lender, and their criteria has changed completely. So
Halifax have done it today.
Yeah.
So Halifax have now, because of the way day traders or contractors, however you want to call it, were paying themselves, and the ability now to do it through a limited company umbrella scheme. Halifax today have announced their strategy on that, which yesterday was different. So we spend a lot of time keeping up to date with what they're doing.
This is a difficult question. You can avoid it if you like. Would you say that the lenders are now as cautious, or have been through the most cautious curve?
Yes.
Or do you think there's potentially more caution to come, depending on how the pandemic pans out? No pun intended.
The former, I think.
You do?
Yeah, so the demand, the house price increases. I think there was announced 13% increase in prices in June, which is crazy. Yeah. So I think now they are coming out, and I'll be honest, some are dealing with it better than others. Okay. Yeah.
But that's
just normal.
That's any business. Yeah. We'll take a view on that business and see. We've touched a bit on the self-employed, and probably, I imagine that you may have been employed through the whole of this, but if you've been furloughed and flexi-furloughed, then your earning history is probably as checkered and as varied as some people who are self-employed. Yes. Obviously, some people self-employed and employed have had a completely perfect earning curve and have earned more. Certain industries. I see buyers in certain sectors. Doctors, IT, who are just there, actuaries, accountants. And there's obviously others at the complete opposite extreme. If you're a nightclub owner, you'd probably be sort of, not thinking of borrowing any money.
Yes.
But do you think that coming out of this, self-employed will be any easier getting mortgages? Do you think it's going to be tougher, or do you reckon it'll all work itself out?
I think it will work itself out, is the short answer. I think the more detailed answer is understanding how the lender views somebody's business. So, for example, it's a limited company can be assessed in two ways, which is the director's salary and dividend, or the net profit, or sometimes called the retained profit of the business, because you don't necessarily want to draw an income out of a limited company if you don't necessarily need it, plus the salary. So removing the dividend from the equation. So I see a lot of limited company directors coming to me saying, the broker I saw said, I don't earn enough from salary and dividends. But when you look at the accounts, it's a different way of looking at that business. So I think we need to establish for all self-employed is how that's happened, how they set themselves up, and then indeed the best lender for that circumstance. And it comes back to the same answer. From the self-employed sole trader, the lenders are starting to understand that any grants that they received is taxable and is in their end of year accounts, right? Okay. So they are now accepting, and it's not all, but some of them are accepting that is actually income. Okay. Because it was only ever replacing what they lost because of COVID. So I see a lot of self-employed people tiptoe into my office, and we just say, look, let's calm down. We all understand what's happened, and it's no different to the furlough scheme. And lenders now are saying, listen, we understand people, hairdressers, beauticians have been furloughed. Yeah. We understand that. But if you can show me one pay slip back at full pay, then we understand that you're now back at work. Yes, yeah. So
it's not what you've been through; it's where your future is.
I would urge people not to be frightened to talk to somebody who, I see a lot of people who've left it because they were worried that they were just going to get laughed at, and it's just not the case anymore.
But presumably, even if you have that conversation and you wouldn't laugh at them, and even if they don't qualify for the mortgage they need to buy the house they need to, they've got to steer on how they deal with their finances and how they pay themselves, because that would be my position. As you know, set up the business less than a year ago. I went effectively 6 months without being paid, because in this business it takes that long to earn your first commission. But now we know the business is going really well. Joanne, likewise, most people here know that Joanne owns Tadar, had 8 months, best part of 8 months in the last 12 not working, furloughing staff, not earning incomes, taking grant funding, but now has got a business that's flying out the other end of the wall. So we'll probably be seeing you on that exact discussion. That wasn't the purpose, by the way, of this Q&A, and I'm trying to make these too personal, but because I wouldn't be filming it otherwise. We talked earlier about people who may have refinanced their property in order to do some improvements rather than do the ultimate move that I see. What about just remortgaging because everybody's incomes, or not everybody's, but most people have had some sort of change of income, either savings or earnings. So have quite a lot of people come over to you in the last sort of 6 months or so to remortgage and say, I want to just change? And should people now be looking at doing that now we're a little bit more out of the worst of this?
So I think there's not many things that surprise me in finance anymore. One thing that still surprises me every day is the number of people that sit on the lender's standard variable rate. And they sit on the standard variable rate, so the kind of bog standard lender's rate, which is always more expensive than any deals that we can that we can get, for two reasons. One is they think I've been running Tadar, or I've not really been paid properly, I don't really have the income I had, I don't necessarily have the deposit I have, so therefore apathy plays a part, and just thinks I don't really want to put myself in a position to talk to somebody about my mortgage when my income's gone down.
So somebody who actually thinks my current circumstances means I wouldn't be able to get a mortgage for the house I'm in.
Yes.
But I'm in it.
Yes.
And if I go back to my lender and confess my situation, they're suddenly going to be advising you to get out of the house because you can't afford it.
Exactly. And the reality of that is actually the flip. So my job would be not just to negotiate a brand new lender for that person if circumstances allow, but also negotiate a deal with their lender.
Okay.
Because that lender knows at that point of them speaking to me that they are at risk of losing that client.
Okay.
Therefore, it's called a product transfer. It's very straightforward. It's a standard transaction for me, and I do lots of them.
And at the end, when somebody does go back onto that variable rate, they then aren't going to get any penalties of transfer, are they?
No. So you basically, there's no early redemption charge at that point. But all I would urge is don't sit on the standard variable rate for fear of asking the question.
Okay.
Because there's always a way, and that sounds overly optimistic on my part, but I believe there's a lender for everybody. It just depends whether you want to pay for that lender, right? And that's that's straightforward. So the answer, it's very rarely the answer that comes out of my mouth is no. The answer is more likely yes, but, or yes, of course. So there's those options, but don't sit on the lender's standard variable rate.
Okay.
From working in Santander for 19 years, and I'm sure Joanne will say the same, that's the only place the lenders make money.
Wow.
So why would you help them?
That's pretty scary. Pretty scary stuff. Now, we've probably touched on reasons why I would work with a broker without trying to spare blushes. I get brilliant feedback from Dean, because the simple thing I get is when somebody's looking to buy a house, whether they use Dean or otherwise, Dean speaks to everybody and is able to call me and say, Adrian, Mr. So-and-so is absolutely fine for that. And he's staying loyal to his broker, which in a funny way you actually quite like.
I love that,
because you like people to remain loyal to you. But I'll also get a call that says, spoken to Mr. Smith, and he's good to buy. And by the way, he's going to use me as well. And we've had written mortgage offers in 5 days, 8 days, some very, very quick. So I know why I use a broker.
Yes.
Because I don't understand anything about it. I'm very curious as to why on earth do you want to deal with estate agents?
Yeah, so I the answer is that it needs to be a partnership where both have the same values, and you and I do.
Okay.
So and that's important, because if you're stack 'em high, sell 'em cheap, that's just not for me. You know, whether that's an age or a snobbery or something.
Probably an age thing.
Yeah. But I don't want to stack them high, sell them cheap. What I want to do is build a relationship with your clients where you and I are working in tandem to get them in the home.
Yes.
And I always start my conversations with any of the clients like that.
Yeah.
If they say to me, Dean, I understand, but I'm really loyal to my broker, I congratulate them, because that for me shows the sign of the individual, and I'm pleased that they're doing that.
Yeah.
So this is not about me trying to poach business. I'll have some very sensible conversations about their affordability and establish whether that's an offer you should accept. But also your clients having you and I on the same side. If you were to record our conversations over a week, we're not just talking about new business, we're talking about the clients that are due to exchange, have exchanged, have offered.
Well, you often will say to me, oh, do you remember so-and-so? I say, yeah, I showed him around the house, and he said he didn't want to buy it, and I haven't shown him anything since. He said, oh, well, he's just bought through me and we've done the mortgage. So it does work that way as well.
But the clients are very complimentary about Keller Williams, and it's important that I represent your brand, and I mean that genuinely. So I represent your brand on behalf of you. So my mortgage journey with the clients is the same as I treat everybody, but it works. Yes. I think it works. Why would I use a broker? If it was, I just don't know, honestly don't know how, if there's 50 odd mortgage lenders, how you can possibly know with any confidence you've chosen or been advised the right deal, unless you use somebody who does that. And I don't suggest that there's deals that I get through my network that won't be available on the market, but I never even tell clients that, not for any other reason other than my job is to find them the best deal.
Yes.
And I find them the best deal with confidence.
Yes.
It's not like they could then walk into Barclays and get that deal better themselves. It just doesn't work like that anymore.
Yeah. Dean, that is absolutely brilliant. I said right at the beginning of this that a lot of these are questions that I've had, which I've never had the real chance to sit down, because whenever we do chat, and of course we can't often sit like this, we have to do it over the phone and over Zoom, and we're nearly always talking about an individual rather than generic stuff, so it's been really good to talk about that. Apologies if we've not answered any live chat stuff, because to be honest, we had questions from David and from me and from Liz, and this is an amalgamation of various questions from people over the last few weeks. So if you have a live question which we've missed, apologies for that, and we'll pick it up in the live chat, and Dean will come back to you on that. If you're watching this on record, which will be the vast majority, then again, if there's any questions that we've raised today, it could be property related, but this, for a change, is something a bit different. It's mortgages, and if you've got any questions of Dean, all the contact details are on this post. It's been an absolute pleasure. Is there anything else you wanted to?
No, just thank you.
That we've missed. No,
thank you. I thoroughly enjoy the Sunday property breakfast. I watch it religiously every week. Yeah. My wife joked that she knows by the time and day it is that I'm listening to that, so that's great to hear. And I really look forward to working with more of your clients.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. This could be, depending on the response we get, we might do a couple more of these Q&As. One other person I've worked with a lot is Karen Chapman at Renaissance Interiors, who's helped me stage and some of the houses and improve the photo shoots. But she is an interior designer, so it's not just about what she can do for me and how it improves my business, but also what she might be able to do for you on an interior design. So we might do that in the forthcoming. But Dean, thank you so much. Brilliant chat. We may well do something similar again, and we'll certainly be featuring a lot of mortgage news ongoing on the Sunday Property Breakfast. So thank you everybody who's watched this and everybody who's caught up on it later, and look forward to seeing you again soon, back on Sunday 10 o'clock, and I'll be on my own, possibly with barking from Margot, but there we go. We'll see you all soon. Thanks very much for everybody who's watched this. Take care. Bye for now.
Bye.